Advocate Aman Datta, his proud parents, today's guest of honor, Meet Haryani, the senior solicitor, senior counsel Nikhil Sakardande, Shri Ganesh Chandru, the partner of Dua Associates and a member of Singapore Arbitration Center, District and Session Judge Ved Pathak, and Rajesh Sethi from the publishing house of Hindu Laws. It is, and all the dignitaries present here, including the senior counsel, advocate, Karandikar, and so many known faces. It is my immense pleasure to be amongst you for the release of this prestigious book, which is a handbook on domestic arbitration law in India. When I went through the book, it was giving a great insight. It is such a comprehensive book, prepared meticulously with lot of research and lot of understanding of the law. I am working in the arbitration field, so I can imagine such a vast subject of arbitration being captured in this 500 pages. It requires the real skill. And having an opportunity of seeing the work of Advocate Aman Datta, I find no wonder that he could do it. He is so sincere, hard worker, and I am sure his parents must be knowing him better than me. But when I observe his work, I always expect that at such a young age, I always wonder at such a young age, how anyone can write such a book on this exhaustive subject of arbitration law. I am really happy to release it in the campus and premises of Wireless Law College, which is having such a rich and glorious tradition in the legal education, and which has taken the lead in establishing the first and only arbitration center in the city of Pune. I am also happy to know that even before it was being published, Datta's book was being commented and being asked for by so many publishers. And Hindu Law House, which is a reputed name in the law books, publication of law books, has got the opportunity to publish it. The book has come out really so well with the foreword of Honorable Justice P.S. Narasimha and Mr. Amit Haryani and of so many others. So it is a great honor for me to release this book. What is important about this book, if you ask me, it covers and encompasses all the aspects of arbitration, domestic arbitration law in India. Such a handbook was so much essential, which will give a step-by-step guidance as to how to proceed in the arbitration matter. Because arbitration as such is not a traditional litigation, traditional practice, but it is a new mechanism of dispute resolution. It has got several, aspects and dimensions. The law is yet emerging and evolving. It is still in the flux, in the sense that several new decisions are coming day in and day out. The earlier decisions are being overruled and divergent views are being expressed about it. So the law is yet to be crystallized, and such a law which is still in fluid condition, and to cover it and write on it is really a challenge. It was really a challenge. Several law entrants, new entrants are curious to know about this field. They are also eager to practice in this arbitration. For them, there was a need of such handbook, and I am sure this need will be fulfilled by this book.
Injuries on the days, and my dear friends who are here part of the audience. We are here today because of something that happened, so far as I am concerned, about a decade ago. So about a decade ago, I met this smart young man in our Pune office. He was good looking, he was very confident. And the feedback I got from my Pune office was that he was also very clear thinking and with a quick grasp of legal principles. He also had a burning desire to get ahead and an ability to work hard. So I thought to myself, this guy is going to go places. He's going to go places. And when I asked him where he had graduated from, he said from ILS. Aman, that was Aman Datta, of course. Yeah. So Aman worked at our Pune office for some years, and then he came to the Bombay office where I really work. And he worked on several litigation matters, and some of them with me, right? And he did them effectively, and he did them well. And applying the same principles that I had heard of earlier, but he actually applied them. And again I thought, this guy is going to go places. Yeah. So here we are. Many years later, at ILS and with Aman Datta. Aman has, over the years, become an adept lawyer and is in the process of establishing himself in his chosen area of practice, as was just mentioned earlier. So it is my great pleasure to be here at the launch of Aman's handbook on domestic arbitration. I must mention here that unfortunately my wife, Madhvi, who has a special bond with Aman, could not be here today. And she had to go to Delhi for our Sambhal's funeral. So she's in Delhi, but I am standing here today on behalf of both of us. Arbitration. Arbitration has a long and a proud history, and it goes back to ancient Greece. And what is the object of arbitration? It is to resolve commercial disputes in a fair, efficient and impartial manner. So as Lord Neuberger, who is the ex-president of the Supreme Court of UK, observes, arbitration meets a critical need in an increasingly complex commercial world. So what are the benefits? The benefits are speed and efficiency. It takes much faster than typically the years and years spent in litigation. If you draft a arbitration clause well, then the parties can select arbitrators with knowledge of your industry.
Written that I had understood what he had said, so I didn't. But this tenacity of his, this quality, I think has stood him in good stead, because writing a book is an Herculean task. It requires commitment, sincerity, and passion. And Aman, has all this, of course, but apart from that, he has the honesty and dedication to the subject. So when he told me that he's written this book on the Arbitration Act, an incident came to mind, and I must share this with you, because this would really bear testimony to what I have said, that this is an in-depth analysis of the Arbitration Act. It's a very thorough piece of work. When I used to practice in Delhi with Mr. Swaraj, there was a proposition that he had given me once to research. And I tried my best, but I couldn't lay my hands on any particular precedent. he did it himself. And he threw a judgment at me and said that you have missed this judgment, you know. So I looked at the judgment and it was one under the Arbitration Act. So when he told me that he has written a book on Arbitration Act, I questioned him and I said, but have you, because this precedent which was thrown at me really has scarred me. So when he told me that he has written this book on Arbitration Act, I suddenly asked him and said, have you covered that particular precedent, a judgment of the Supreme Court? He said, no, not only that, I have also covered the case which follows that case. So that's the level at which this book and this effort that he's taken. It's really a fantastic piece of research for all researchers, for all legal professionals, judges, practitioners. He's covered all the nuances of the Arbitration Act insofar as Part 1 is concerned. I wholeheartedly second the guest of honor, Mrs. Justice Hansardar Joshi's suggestion that we should now take it a step further and get into international commercial arbitrations and Part 2 also. It's been a great honor to be a part of this function and this gathering where such distinguished people are here. And it gives me great pleasure to be a part of this. And I'm
the most prestigious law colleges of this country, ILS Pune. And today we look at lawyers, young lawyers, and I see a lot of young lawyers, a lot of law students as well, I assume. But if we think of about 30, 40 years ago, or even beyond that, when a young law student graduates and he's called to the bar in India, they would either practice on the civil side or the criminal side. So those were the only major options that you had. And getting a placement with a good senior was a Herculean task. So there was this young law graduate who was a star in law college. He won a gold medal. He was a gold medalist, first class honors in his LLB class. He was from a government law college like my college, let's assume, from Madras Law College. And he was knocking at the doors of several seniors, please take me as your junior. But very competent, they said, no, sorry, we don't have a place. And this young man was very frustrated. He said, see, I'm an LLB first class honors, gold medalist. I really don't have an opportunity. He was very frustrated when he was walking. And on the way, he saw a circus. So he just went to the circus manager. He said, sir, please give me a job. He said, what's your qualification? He said, I'm an LLB first class and I'm a gold medalist. He said, what? Please, I'm already frustrated. You lawyers, I don't think you have a place in the circus. He said, no, please just forget about that. I really need a job. And he said, see, okay. Then this guy thought, let me tell him something, he'll run away from here. He said, there was this monkey which was very popular in this circus. But last week, this monkey ran away. This was the crowd puller of the circus. And today, there's absolutely nobody coming to this circus. So if you can, impersonate the monkey and wear a garb and act like a monkey, you're sorted. This guy said, absolutely no problem. And this monkey became famous. There was houseful shows. And completely, there was, people had to wait in a long queue to get tickets. Monkey was so popular.
Of this trial. Because if at first time or at beginning I am directed to deliver the speech, then it is very difficult for me. Because opening batsman should be of that caliber so that he will build up the score and thereby team would be benefited. That difficult task has sincerely completed by our Honorable Joshi Madam, and therefore I am quite comfortable sitting here, and I was not knowing that Mr. Raman will tell me to speak about his book. But it is very difficult to speak about that book because I have not gone through that book. Whatever the speeches delivered by all these eminent personalities, I just find adoption courses with respect to their thoughts. After hearing the speeches of these eminent personalities, asking me to conclude this program is nothing but go in Himalaya and start the shop of selling ice. If ice is everywhere, then who will come to my shop and purchase some piece of ice from me? That is the difficult task which I have accepted due to friendship of Mr. Aman Datta, and this would be the salute to his sincere efforts which he had taken while writing this book. What is the feeling of writer at the time of publication of this book? I know very well. Because I am also author. I have authored 4 Katha Sangrah story books in Marathi. And every time I got that much pleasure that having full audience before me and everybody is speaking something, of course good, about what I had written in those story books. Just cursory glance on that book, because there is no much time to go through each and every page of that book, because in very short notice he has asked me to come and attend this function. But definitely I will go through that book, and it would be really beneficial for me to discharge my day-to-day duties. But having cursory glance on that book, I remind that whenever we take our vehicle to mechanic for showing that something is wrong going on with my vehicle, then he used to start that vehicle, and after hearing this sound, he just advises what has to be done with that vehicle with respect to its repairing. So generally he says that साहब गाड़ी के साउंड से पता लगता है कि बोले क्या फॉल्ट है इसमें. I realized that word of that mechanic. He used to find fault in that vehicle after hearing the sound. I used to find what is usefulness in that book after having cursory glance on that book. I think
very good evening to you all. At the outset, I would like to thank each and every one of you for having taken out your valuable time and having taken the effort to make it here. I have no words to thank the honorable dignitaries on the dais for their words of endorsement for not just the book but also for me. No amount of words are enough. I will leave it at that. It's a very exhilarating thing to hear. That's all I can say. So I thank Dr. Justice Shalini Phansalkar Joshi, Judge Shri Sunil Vedpata, Mr. Amit Haryani, Mr. Nikhil Sakapande, and Mr. Ganesh Chandru. I thank each and every one of you for the kind words. That said, I welcome you all to the launch of the handbook on domestic arbitration in India. So, my family, my friends, my colleagues, senior members, some of whom from the Pune Bar are present today, Mr. Kanetkar, Mr. Bhalirao, Mr. Ganu, Lalita ma'am, Ashish sir, all of you, my clients and my parents, Dr. Anjum Datta and Mr. Vijay Datta. While I could begin by speaking about the handbook itself, given the words that have been said by such distinguished names within the legal profession and in the arbitration space, it would be a disservice on my part to say anything about the book, or at least say too much about the book. What I will do instead is give some insight into why this book came into being, and more important, how the book came into being. So I'll start at the beginning. My first brush with the subject of arbitration was while I was part of this great institution as a student. It was a subject I believe was taught to us in the 4th year, back in the year 2015. Now, of course, my interests back in the day were to merely pass the university exams. And so my knowledge of the subject was quite subsurface, to say the least. That said, for some unexplainable reason, the words SBP, Patel Engineering, judicial in nature, Booz Allen Hamilton, arbitrability, and so on, they never really left my mind. Now, I remember these words, I never forgot them, but I had no inkling of how many thousand pages deep these seemingly inconsequential, at least that's how they appeared to me back then, or small words ran. My understanding was subsurface, I say, because to my uninformed mind, I must confess, there seemed to be no significant difference between arbitration, conciliation, and mediation. They all seem to be different shades of the same color. Color which sure looks beautiful, but seemed like it couldn't be used on the canvas of everyday private party disputes. Fortunately for me, and I must say unfortunately for the arbitration ecosystem of the country, my subsequent interactions with students, people from outside of the profession, and even within the profession, made me realize that I wasn't alone in this understanding. It was only when I finally read the landmark ruling of the Supreme Court in A. Ayyaswamy versus A. Paramaswaram that I really applied my mind to the subject of arbitration. It was a judgment on the issue of arbitrability in cases where pleas of fraud have been raised. And I read that judgment for the purposes of authoring an article while I was at Haryani & Co. But it was only at this time that I first put any thought to the subject as a whole. And quite frankly, I didn't get my first crack at detailed or thorough arbitration work until 2 years after. That's the first time that I really applied my mind to the Act of 1996 itself. Now, the arbitration went on for years. Over 4 years to be precise. But when it did end, it didn't take more than a year for the parties to finally put an end to their dispute. And that is when I finally realized the power of this system or method of resolving disputes. Why do I say that? Because I assure you that a case of that kind would remain pending on the file of a court of law for decades and decades. That is the unfortunate truth of our justice delivery system. And I must say this, once a practitioner spends enough time in the legal system, so to speak, we realize that our issues are not to do with judicial discretion or court holidays or any one of the 100 different reasons that are given. They have to do with reasons which run much deeper. And our issues, in a manner of speaking, are systemic. That also includes us as a society or as parties. Irrespective. Coming back to the subject of arbitration itself, It was only at this point that I truly understood what a well-conducted arbitration could actually lead to and do. Now, given that a lot of each of the dignitaries have shed light upon arbitration as a subject, I won't take up too much time, but let me define arbitration in the best way that I have found it, such as to explain it to a newcomer. One might say that arbitration is an expedited way of trying a case before a judge or a decision maker who is known as the arbitrator. Now, the arbitrator is required to decide this case in accordance with the first principles, so to speak, of civil procedure. For that matter, even evidence, minus the extreme technicalities which usually delay a civil trial.